Yeah, and welcome back to Bible Break. Goodness only knows what they've got, what machine they've got working upstairs, but I hope it's not going to affect us in any significant way. We'll find out at the end, won't we, when I look back over this. Um, but anyway, we're in Mark chapter 5 and reading from the NIV as usual. Mark 5, verse 1, we'll read down to verse 20. I've just had a shower, so my glasses are starting to steam as well, and everything's just fine. They went across the lake to the region of the Gerasenes. When Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an evil spirit came from the tombs to meet him. This man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain, for he had often been chained hand and foot, but he tore the chains apart and broke the irons on his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and in the hills, he would cry out and cut himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. He shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? Swear to God that you won't torture me." For Jesus was saying to him, "Come out of this man, you evil spirit." Then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." And he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out to the area. A large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside. The demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs, allow us to go into them." He gave them permission, and the evil spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. Those tending the pigs ran off and reported this in the town and countryside, and the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons sitting there, dressed and in his right mind. And they were afraid. Those who had seen it told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man and told about the pigs as well. Then the people began to plead with Jesus to leave their region. As Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. Jesus did not let him, but said, "Go home to your family and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you." So the man went away and began to tell in the Decapolis, the 10 towns, how much Jesus had done for him, and all the people were amazed. So at the very end of this little story, the demon-possessed man who has now been delivered and saved has become something of an itinerant preacher. But it starts off with him and his bunch of demons inside him forming something of an unexpected welcoming committee for the Lord Jesus as they get out of the boat, as they've crossed the lake, Sea of Galilee. They're on the other side in the country of Gadara, or of the Gerasenes, as it's put here in the reading. And there is this man, naked, demon-possessed, there to meet Jesus. And we are told a little later on in the story that he had actually seen Jesus from a distance when Jesus and his crew debarked, got off the boat, and he had run towards him. Now that's something that might make you think, for a start. But let's not jump the gun. Let's just have a sort of further look at this man who is clearly obsessed with darkness and death, or at least that which is inside him propels him towards that, because he cannot live in normal society. Normal society is in fear of him because of his extra-human strength and because, obviously, of his behavior and his tendencies. He is out of control. He spends his time in the mountains, and he spends his time amongst the tombs, living amongst the tombs, crying, and self-harming is the other significant detail that we are told of here. When a person, or for that matter, when a society is preoccupied with little more than disease and death and self-harm and all the neuroses imaginable under the sun, then it's not in a good way. And this man was not in a good way. And I suppose the psychiatrist would talk about multiple personality disorder or what have you, but that and schizophrenia, people who are suffering from these so-called conditions, they hear real voices inside their heads. And there is no diagnosis and treatment, which is usually 99 times out of 100 through drugs, that can get to the bottom of the problem, because the problem is of a spiritual order. It's interesting, is it not, how when this demoniac sees Lord Jesus from a distance, he runs towards him. You would think, would you not, that the natural normal tendency for somebody in his state, in his condition, would be to run away from the Lord Jesus afterwards. After all, he runs towards him, but then the demons inside him are terrified as to what they feel or what they know that Jesus is going to do to them. So how do we explain this? Well, I think we can explain it in that evil is fascinated by goodness and feeds on goodness because it is parasitic in nature. The demons inside this man were feasting upon him whilst destroying him from the inside out. And so long as they were left to do so, they were happy to do so. Once again, they probably thought as well that it was futile for them to try to escape when Jesus gets off the boat and enters the country. And so they run towards him, whilst being repelled by him. But let us be convinced, as I say, of this one thing, of the parasitic nature of evil. There is a dualism which exists in this world, the struggle, the fight between good and evil. But we should not imagine that evil has any existence that is independent of the original good of God, who is good, and of his good creation. No, it can exist only in this parasitic form, feeding upon that which is there and corrupting it. And that is why God's sovereignty and supremacy are the principal things, and why the victory of God and of good over evil, over the devil and over demons is an assured thing. Because dualism, the dualism such as it is in this world, is not absolute. It is temporary. And this lot know that their time is up, which of course is why they beg Jesus to send them into the swine. Now, I'm not going to do a whole course on demonology with you as if I could, or as if I would want to. But it's interesting how they beg Jesus not to send them out to the area, but instead, which I assume Jesus could do, but to send them into the swine. And then in an image of that part of humanity which is avowed to destruction, sheep is not the best image for unthinking, stupid humanity going to its destiny. The best image for that are these deranged pigs heading for heading for the cliff or the steep slope. It's not as dramatic here in the original. In the popular imagination, we picture these pigs rather, like lemmings heading for the edge of the cliff and throwing themselves off it. And pigs and lemmings are a better image of doomed humanity, I think, than sheep. Sheep are generally the image of the flock that is following God, following the Lord faithfully and thinking and engaged with God and with his word and with his people. So here we have it. The man now, what happens to this man is the most urgent need at the present time for us in our society, in our world, we have to say. That this man is then found clothed. That was quick, but there we are. He's clothed and he's seated. And this is the principal thing. It might not be spectacular, but believe me, it would be refreshing, would it not? At the present time, he is there seated at Jesus' feet and in his right mind. Nothing is more urgent than that this world return to its senses and to its right mind. I know that somebody like me might be considered to be on the fringe and a nutcase talking like that, but as far as I can make out, the Lord Jesus wasn't in a majority here, as we shall see. The marvelous thing that's happened is this man who had gone completely mad is now restored to sanity and good health. And of course, he alone begs to go with Jesus in the end. Though Jesus, as is usually the case, tells him, no, you stay here and do what you can here to make God known. Of course, he goes out to the 10 cities and makes Jesus known. But again, that's okay. That's okay. Now, we have to say a word, of course, in closing, though, about the reaction of those pig herders and the people in the towns of the countryside who depended upon this activity, this business, and who have now been robbed, effectively, of their business. Now, I would not minimize this. I mean, we're not going to go into the fact that, we could ask ourselves the question, well, what were these people doing tending to pigs in this? Well, they were on the northern fringes, as far as I'm aware, and they obviously didn't feel themselves to be affected by any religious or cultural taboos as far as herding and keeping and selling and eating pigs were concerned. That was their livelihood, and they've now lost it. And that's not a small thing. Again, I am very much aware that throughout the world, there are many there are many thousands of people who are now losing their jobs because they are standing up for principles of human freedom and dignity and bodily autonomy. Indeed, they are standing up for those and freedom of movement, and they're standing up for all those inalienable rights which my generation at least, we always thought were ours, and we had hoped that looks as though we were wrong, that we might have passed it on to the next generation. But the next generation, I think, as indeed those who are far too comfortable in our own, are now waking up. Because what's at stake? Well, what's at stake is what was at stake here. People are generally far more concerned about what they've got and what they feel they need to hold on to than they are about real values, eternal values, real health, spiritual truth, God's visitation, God's salvation, God's cleansing, God's deliverance, God's healing. Now, I repeat, I am not minimizing their loss, but it does strike me as being somewhat disturbing that they could not even begin to think about what they might have gained, and they themselves didn't engage in any meaningful way with the Lord Jesus. I'm going to have to close because we've just gone over our 15 minutes, but I would just once again want to congratulate those of you who are fighting a good fight at the moment in extremely difficult circumstances, and who are responding to those circumstances in a completely different way to those of the people of Gadara. May God bless you. And I look forward to joining you again for Bible Break shortly. Bye for now.